everybody, Jeannie here. Welcome back to the studio. In this video I'm going to show you a little bit about how to layer with oils in a Misty Mountain scene that I was inspired by. So be sure and if you like this video, give me a thumbs up and let me know in the comments what you'd like to learn how to paint, and I'd be glad to put out some different videos for you. But I love painting wildlife, and I'll be doing some more extensive videos in the future. But before we start on this, let's go up to the mountain. I'll show you where I got the inspiration for this one, and I hope you're inspired too. So let me know, and let's go. Looks like some trees all across my usual trail. I'm just gonna have to climb over it. Oh, by the way, check me out. I got some new boots. Aren't they beautiful? They're weatherproof, insulated. And they're awesome. I love them. Going up the mountain. Smell something. See him stick his nose up. I'll keep a watchful eye out. Got my bear spray though. What you see up there, buddy? Good boy. We're headed over there. To another peak up over here. Got some new boots, so they took me up here. And Louie, my faithful scout, he guarded my path. I think he smelled a bear back there. So did I. They stink a lot like dogs, so stick around if you want to watch the rest of the video and learn a little bit about the painting and get some tips and tricks from it, and And thanks so much for coming along with me on this hike. And I can't wait for more adventures. See you back at the studio. Here we're going to start with some cadmium orange acrylic and some water. I'm using a glass palette here. I had forgotten to push record at the first go, so I'm going over it again for you and using a little bit more pigment. Now I'm just doing like what I call a wash. Now I'm bringing in a little more pigment to kind of scratch in the trees, sort of do the layout real quick. I like to draw with acrylic first, and it adds a nice bright background to the painting. So that now we're adding in the white, the titanium white, and I'm just going to push that all around in where I see where the light is coming through, all those patches. And if you took notice of the mountains and the fog rolling in, this is the kind of the effect I'm trying to incorporate. And I'm also adding more color into the sky, like a sunset, like a soft sunset with a little bit of clouds. So we want to just kind of push in all that base white first so that the painting is wet. Now I talked about layering, but this is all wet on wet. So when you bring in those other colors, they just sort of meld into the wet white and soften the feel of the painting. Now we're going to come in with the yellow, white, and the alizarin crimson at the bottom to create kind of a peachy color, adding all those colors a tiny bit at a time into the white. Now when you see me excuse me, pull the paintbrush through my paper towel, I'm just wiping it off, getting a nice dry brush each time, and I'm not dipping into any oil or anything at this point. Now these are wonderful paints. These are M-gram paints. They're based with walnut oil, and that's all I use for a medium. And I never clean them with turpentine. I just use soap and water or the oil, the walnut oil that comes with the paints. This is my favorite paint. Now I'm just kind of creating some contrasting peach sort of. We're coming from white to yellow to peach and deepening our tones as we move along in the painting. So here I'm just going to wet all that cloud that I was forming in the beginning. Now I'm just going to bring in a little more alizarin crimson. Got to be careful with that color. It's really strong, so you just need a touch of it. You'll see me touch the colors just barely with my paintbrush as I move them into the other colors. Now I want that yellow against where the sun is coming through on that right hand side, where the really brightest part of the sky is opening up. So it goes from white to yellow to peach right there at that spot. Now we're going to get a little bit more crimson in there to add that into those clouds right down the center of our yellows and orange peach color. Now we're going to add a little bit more crimson right down the center again of each cloud. We're creating a barrier, so when we come in with the blue, we're not going to touch the yellow because the yellow and blue make green. So we're going to be real careful and bring in all that nice crimson, just barely enough. You don't touch it again too much. Just kind of create all your clouds and fog down into the tree line where. Now we're going to bring in a little bit more. We're going to start with the yellow on the edge of the trees to really catch that sunlight right on the edge first before we start in with the other colors. So just come down along those tree lines where the sun is really beaming through that. On the other side of the mountain, that backlighting I love so much. Really makes it a nice intense creation there. Now, of course, I love doing wildlife, but wildlife need some habitat, don't they? So I'm creating a habitat and showing you how to do this. Now be sure and let me know what you would like to learn to paint. This is, of course, a time lapse. It took me a lot longer than this. It's just a little 6x8 canvas. I'm going to continue to bring in some reds now, more orange reds, right on the same thing with the clouds, but we're using a little bit more pigment. Always wiping off my brush to dry it off, because as I go along, I'm picking up that color, that wet color. when it's wet on wet, that's what happens. So you have to just keep pinching off the brush, dry it off, so to speak. Now we're just going to keep on adding and softening those foggy elements, the fog that rolls in on the mountainside. So now I'm going to create a little kind of a cloud down here at the bottom with a little bit of the crimson and peach, making a peachy color. But see how it just blends into the white that's already there? That makes it so much easier when you add the white in there first, because your other colors just keep blending in, and you just keep working it and working it. Keep drying off your brush, keep pinching it through the paper towel, keep softening. Now I'm flattening the brush as I go. Now I'm adding a little bit more white here, and I've got the blue on there, and I'm adding the blue to the yellow to make green. Now I'm going to start bringing in those green colors. So we're bringing those right inside of the orange areas, the peachy colors. Now we're going back and forth, going up and down. We got a little angle brush there. Picked up our little angle brush and keep softening. Same technique as with the clouds and the fog. Keep pinching that brush off, and you see how the tree color just blends into that wet background, and that's what helps to create that nice soft feel to it. Up and down with your trees, establishing your trees, and then back and forth with the brush to soften out those colors. So you just keep on adding, create your trees how you want them. I'm just making a whole long tree line, sort of breaking up those tree lines a little bit to create some interest. That's why I wanted to show you the inspiration of the hike up the mountain, because this is really where you observe nature and how trees grow. Now I'm just establishing my trunks first, up and down with the angle brush, and then back and forth to create the branches. Don't have to get real fancy or detailed. I like to get detailed. I continue on getting detailed. Now I'm reusing a little bit more pigment to establish those darker colors, which bring those trees forward out of the fog. And the tops of the trees are going to stick up out of the fog. So then I just keep softening down into the fog with that. All that wet paint is working for me, which is awesome. Now I'm going to do the same thing on all the other spots. Just keep on bringing that color in. Just keep on creating those trees back and forth. It's good if you was to just watch this before you try it. If you're a beginner, just keep softening that brush. Never put your brush in oil. Now we've got a clean brush. We've got another brush, and we're bringing in some ultramarine blue with alizarin crimson and white to make a lavender color. Now we're coming inside those clouds the same way as we did with the peach color before. So if you need to go back and look at that again, you'll see what I mean, because you don't want to touch those yellows with the blues. This is all wet on wet. You could wait for it to dry to do this, but you can work it wet on wet if you're careful not to get the blue down into. That's why I've got the peach in there to create a boundary, a border, so to speak, for that blue, so it doesn't touch the yellow. I keep pitching off that brush so I don't want to get that blend of yellow into the blue to make green clouds. We don't want that. Now we're going to go back into the greens. We're going to create some darker trees that are coming forward. Just continue the same pattern as you were with the other colors, the peaches and the other greens, the lighter yellows. Just each time you bring in some darker pigment, your trees are going to pop forward. So what I want to do is I want to soften them as they come down so that it appears that fog is rolling in, and it's softening the bases of the trees. I love that. I love when the fog rolls in. It creates such a beautiful mood. So you just keep, just make your trunks, make some dead trees if you want. In and out, up and down. You don't want those trees to be all the same height, so you go short to high to short to high. Now just keep filling it in, keep working it, soften in some softer colors, bring in some yellows. Don't come up to the edge and block out all that beautiful highlight on the edge of your mountain, the top of your mountain, where that backlight comes in. Keep experimenting, little bit at a time. Don't touch too much color at a time. Keep drying off your brush and experimenting. This is a good practice for trees. So I just keep filling it in here and filling it in. And I'm gonna bring down some trees over here. I'm just gonna keep filling in that whole mountain until I'm ready to make my forward tree, my one that's up close. Bring in a little softer colors, maybe into your blues, to push that mountain back there, that far left-hand mountain. Now I'm just bringing in a little more white to brighten up that edge of the clouds. And I got a buffer brush here, a mop, and I'm mopping it in just softly, just soft touches. This is good sometimes to just watch it. I'm taking that angle brush and just drawing my tree down, drawing that trunk in. Bring in some orange and alizarin crimson. That makes kind of a brown. This is where you get to mix all the colors, and it's still wet on wet. So you'll see as I twist that brush and lift it up as it comes down, that's going to make it fade off, appear like it's fading off into the distance. And then your close-up branches will have more pigment. See, it just kind of catches that white, those lighter colors, as I bring it out and twist that brush and roll it in my fingers. You'll see me roll it in my fingers to bring that tip out to an edge. And you can do this, it's just practice. Just lift that brush up as you come out to the tip of the branches. Now I've got what I call my round rake, or a comb. It makes like little needles. So I just work in all those needles. Just this part you want to take your time, especially, because you don't want to glob too much paint. You're picking up very little paint as you're coming along through here. Now I'm just going to add some more alizarin crimson and ultramarine blues to my palette so that I can get that color, that dark color that I want, because as those darker colors appear on your canvas, the closer the tree appears to you, because the contrasting colors, the dark shadows, pull that tree forward at you. And just kind of picking up some of those other light greens and yellows to create far away needles, and then bring in the darker ones to create the close-up needles. And you can go over it again with yellow if you feel like you're getting too much. I started to get too much dark on here, so I started bringing in more yellows and crimsons, and now I'm kind of tweaking my branches a little bit. I'm coming in and with that smaller rake or angle brush, either one will work, to just kind of tip out and deepen some of the contrasts on those branches, little tiny twigs and things, because I really want that tree to pop forward at me and have some detail to it. And just gonna keep adding. Now I'm gonna bring in that lighter color down on this lower branch so it fades into the fog. That softer orange first, and then I bring in a little softer colors. Just let it blend in. Sometimes I'll grab that yellow to soften it into the branch, so it sort of, see how I'm grabbing that green and yellow to soften that down into the fog as I go. Just keep softening. Now I've got my little stick so I can lay my hand on it and rest it. So this is just a piece of dowel, and I'm resting it at the top of the canvas and on the easel, just far enough away from the wet paint so I can rest my hand on. This is a really good trick for helping me to work on wet paintings. I'll roll that back and forth. Some people put a little knob on the top of it to make it hook at the top of the canvas, but this way works for me. Now I'm just kind of bringing in all those little details with my teeny tiny little comb. Now here we're at the very end, just doing the last little touch-ups, bringing in some of those lighter colors to reach out into those trees so that they fade off into the distance. And then I'm going to bring in some darker, deeper colors to touch up those last contrasting shadows into the branches. A little bit of highlights too. So I hope you really enjoyed this video, and I hope you've gotten something out of it. See you in the next one.